Hi, I'm Nikki, the obsessive bookseller. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do a massive unhaul. Can I be real with you? So it is currently the middle of December and I have my video schedule planned out well through January. And I don't have any open slots to insert this video into, so I'm just filming it because I am really sick and tired of seeing all of these books stacked in my library. I would really like that corner back. They've been accumulating for several months, and I did a recent rearrange to fit a chair in here, and they are simply in the way, and I don't think I could handle it if I had to wait until well into next year to see to these. So I'm going to do the unhaul today and get all of those books out of this room, and then hang on to this video until I have somewhere to place it. My future self will thank me. So let's get started. We're doing an unhaul today. Yeah, it's like 2 weeks later since I filmed my intro, but what can I say? I got busy. Well, it wouldn't be a book unhaul without me sitting awkwardly on the floor, but this is how we do it. So I'm looking at this stack here, and I've got a lot of really weird things. A lot of these things aren't in my usual genre, hence the reason that I'm kind of letting them go. But first up, Anne Aguirre, The Leopard King. I supported a self-published venture with this one because I love the author. She has produced some of my all-time favorite reads. However, this is a very stereotypical paranormal romance, and I think I DNF'd it about halfway through. It just was not for me. It was really weird. She's so hit or miss for me, and this was a big miss. So I am letting this one go. I should clarify, I rearranged things in this room to get my new chair to fit, and that involved purging my romance collection. It's a collection you don't see because I read maybe one book every year or two off of it, and so I tried to get rid of everything I don't think I'd read within the next 10 years, which is most of them, but whatever. Confessions of a Demon Hunting Soccer Mom, Demons Are Forever by Julie Kenner. Just another random romance that I've got on my shelves. I do like the paranormal stuff over just the regular things. This is a mystery by C.J. Box, Nowhere to Run. I had somehow ended up with 2 copies of these. One that was my grandmother's. I think this one was hers. And then I had a kind of a nicer non-book club edition hardcover, so I kept that one. Oh, an advanced copy of Kingdom of Liars by Nick Martell. This book was okay. It was like a 3-star read. I liked it okay. A lot of the plot points felt really contrived, and it also felt way too random for me. Like, the thought progression did not match his actions, in my opinion, and so I had a really hard time getting on board. But you won't find, like, a more bizarre kind of immersive atmosphere in many fantasies. Like, this did a really good job at creating a mood, but I didn't like it enough to take up shelf on my space going forward, so letting that one go. A YA. I told you this was random. This is Push by Eve Silver. It's the second book in the Game series. And I am replacing this one with a hardcover that I got in a haul. And the series has got a cool concept. It's like virtual reality alien hunting, but people actually die in there because the aliens are real. I'm not quite sure how the structure works. This second book didn't really work for me. It was all about the boy and not about the cool world building, but I haven't read the third one yet. I found the second one in hardcover super cheap, so I picked it up. So now I have a matching set, and I may or may not end up unhauling that one eventually also, but for now they match. I have a bunch of strip cover books here. If you're new to my unhaul videos, I worked as a bookseller for like 12 years, and one of the perks of working as a bookseller is you get to bring home what we call strip covers, strip copies. And basically, it costs the publisher more money to mail these books back and forth because they really don't make a dime off of mass markets. So instead of shipping everything back and taking a loss, they have us rip off the covers and send the covers back to prove that we're not continuing to sell the item, and then we recycle the remainder. The recycling thing was kind of relatively new in my career, and it hurt my heart so much to actually just throw a bunch of these books in the dumpster every week. Anyway, I saved a whole bunch. And this was back in the day before e-readers were a thing, before audiobooks were a thing. And so the only way I had to read all of these books was to own them physically. And so now that everything is accessible digitally, I don't really need to hang on to as many of these strip copies as I have been. I mean, they're cool placeholders on the shelf, but most of the ones I'm getting rid of today are books that I just didn't care for. Not enough to represent on my shelves. I'm trying to narrow everything down to just the best books. And hence, Dime Store Magic and Hunted by Kelly Armstrong. Books, I think, 3 and 4 in the Women of the Otherworld series. Loved book one of my all-time favorite reads. Check it out if you love urban fantasy and paranormal. Like, it is so good. Book two was okay, but then from there the series gets a lot weaker. So yeah, didn't really, like, 3-star reads don't really need to hang on to the paperbacks. My copy of Kushiel's Chosen by Jacqueline Carey. I have these in hardcover, but I also have another edition of this that is signed, so don't need my duplicate. Industrial Magic and Broken by Kelly Armstrong, part of that same series. A stack of science fiction romance by Linnea Sinclair. Ooh. And a Rogalona Andrews in there. But I painstakingly collected these over the years because I thought, oh, like, I mildly like romance and I was just getting into science fiction. I thought it would be a cool hodgepodge, but I'm admitting to myself now that I think these are going to be really stupid and I don't see myself ever wasting time on them. I mean, they're massive too. It's like a 400 or 500 page book to tell a story that I'm sure could be a lot more concise. So finally letting these go, even though, like, the collector in me is like, well, you took so long to, like, bring those home one at a time over the years, but whatever. Sorry about the baby noises. Mom life. Star Crash by Elisa Hendricks, also another sci-fi romance. Most of my romance books, I have 3 categories. I've got the fantasy stuff, the sci-fi stuff, and the paranormal stuff. My advanced copy of Speyside by Michael Mamet, one of my all-time favorite series. I love it so much. I have since gotten a regular retail copy, and this one has a watermark in it, which made it very difficult to read. Well, I love that I have this, but I'm looking at my shelf. You can't even tell what it is from the spine. I'm like, just let it go. You don't need to hang on to everything that's really cool, but this is really cool. Another Linnea Sinclair, gone. Molly Harper's The Art of Seducing a Naked Werewolf. It's book 2 in a series. I think I read the first one. It takes place in Alaska. It's a cute little feel-good romance paranormal story. One of my best friend's favorite series, and that's, I think, why I hung on to this one. But like I said, I can get it digitally now, so I don't need to hang on to, like, a placeholder. A Romance Fantasy by C.L. Wilson. I think the only reason I hung on to these is because I managed to collect a whole bunch of them with covers on them. I'm not even sure. Did I buy these? I don't know, but so I have a thing about romance and fantasy hybrids. If I'm going to read a romance, I'm going to pick up an actual, like, new adult romance book where that's all the author focuses on and get my kicks. If I want to read a fantasy, I'm going to pick up a robust fantasy. What I find is usually with these, like, in-between books, these hodgepodge of genres, is that the romance is kind of stupid and thin, and the fantasy element isn't developed well enough because that was a flub. The author usually has to split attentions between developing those two things, and usually none of them are to my satisfaction. So despite the fact that I have a whole bunch of these, every time I look at those, I'm like, I mean, they're cool covers, but I don't think I'm going to read these. Ooh! I have an autographed copy. That's probably why I collected everything with covers on it. Cool. Eternal Nights by Patty O'Shea. It's a futuristic romance novel. Woo! Gone. Undead and Unwed by Mary Janice Davidson. When I was going through all of these romance books, I picked up a few and, like, read the first couple of pages. And I picked up her Mermaid series and read the first chapter, and I would not call myself a prude by any means, especially with stuff I read in books, but like it was trashy. Like, it's a little bit what was being described, but it's also how it was being described, and it was so casually done. I was like, whoa. So I kind of soured my taste for the author in general, so, like, I think I'm okay letting this one go, even though I really like, if I'm gonna read paranormal stuff, I like the vampire stuff. Another Linnea Sinclair. I have a bunch of mysteries with actual covers on them by Susan Whitting Albert. I inherited a whole bunch of mystery books from my grandmother. They're really special to me. And between all of those hardcovers and these paperbacks, I have the entire series. But I was looking at everything on the shelf and I'm like, you know, I'm never going to read those physical paperbacks. I probably will pick up the physical hardcovers, but these are just taking up room on my shelves. I'm having a hard time finding room for all the mysteries in this library anyway. So I made the hard call to just let these paperbacks go and just keep a shrine of the hardcovers. And there is a chance that if I like the series well enough, because this author happens to be my grandmother's favorite. So if I like them well enough, I'll probably hunt them the rest down in hardcover. So letting go of all of those paperbacks. And then to that end, I just have a hodgepodge here. I have a couple of Rita Mae Brown. She wrote some cat mysteries. Lillian Jackson Braun, the Cat Who series, which I actually have read the first one. It was cute. And I have almost all of them in hardcover. Short story collection of Lillian Jackson Braun without the cover. And then one random one by Laura Childs, The English Breakfast Murder. Mystery novels are so funny. You've got food, cats, and crafting. Those are usually, or Western. Those are the topics. Don't deviate. Okay, a couple of books in the Edge series by Ilona Andrews. I actually quite liked this one. It's my least favorite in the realm of works that they have, but it's still a solid 3 stars. I enjoyed it. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, strip covers of... No, I don't need the strip covers. What I would like is for them to come out with new, maybe even self-published editions, nice little trade paperbacks. I would totally snatch all of those up. They did re-release the Kate Daniels series in trade, but the covers are so hideous that I can't buy them. I need to wait another 10 years and try again. And then Wild and Hexy by Vicki Lewis Thompson. Woo! Gone. Okay, now we start getting into some of the hardcovers, the fun stuff. But let's do the random stuff first. So I have a guide hiking Zion and Bryce Canyon National Parks. I haven't been to Bryce very often, but I live really close to Zion, and I've been there more times than I can count. I really don't need a hiking guide. I acquired this from a marriage. But I have other resources, and I can't imagine me ever going to Zion taking this book with me. Like, more likely I'd just call someone and be like, hey, have you tried this hike? Is it good? And then go from there. So we don't need that. Got this as a wedding gift, like just generally hiking Utah. And there's a couple of cool Moab things in here, but like I said, I would not rely on a book for some of my hikes. There's actually an app called Trail... Shoot. I'll post a picture of the app logo. It's a really cool app. It gives you like all of the local hikes and stuff. And even places that, like within like 2 miles of where I live, there are a couple of little hikes that even I didn't know about. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then yet another one, Monument Hike, Utah. I have some cool footage of myself actually sitting underneath that arch. It's kind of fun. But letting those go. I have a Sci-Fi Interference by Sue Burke. Read Semiosis for Project Sci-Fi and didn't care for it. Looked up spoilers for this one, and in hindsight, I'm kind of glad I didn't read it. One reviewer put it perfectly. She said, this entire book could have been an epilogue in the first book, and we could have called it a day. But I like the concepts. I didn't like the execution at all, which is a huge bummer because I think those books are really pretty. Children of Time, trade paperback version that I bought myself before reading it. Read it, my favorite book of the year in 2022, and ended up finding a hardcover of the first 2 books and snagged those, so no longer need the paperback. So I went used bookstore trekking. I will link those trips in the description. But when I was there, I picked up a couple of books in Melanie Ron's Dragon Star series, and I read these in high school. It's a set of 6 books. This is books like 5 and 6, and I bought these because this cover is one of my all-time favorites. Absolutely loved it. Tried to draw it, paint it, whatever, like 80 times in high school, and it never turned out good, but love this one. So I picked it up because I'm like, oh, that's such a love it that I've got the hardcover of it. But they're sitting there on my shelves, and I'm like, I don't want those. I didn't even like the series. It was very dry and boring. A lot of people are like, oh, I love Melanie Ron. And I'm like, did I miss something? I may have missed something when I read it. Maybe I wasn't old enough yet. But I read them. I like the concept. The magic involved like dream walking, I think, but with colors and yeah, whatever. And pretty decent use of dragons. It struck me though, the dragon on this one looks a little bit like the cockroach alien on Men in Black. Just saying. I have a book club edition of Kushiel's Skyen by Jacqueline Carey. This is one of my all-time favorite books. I loved it so much. One of my favorite battle sequences in any fantasy book that I've read took place in this book, which you wouldn't know it by the cover, but these are like incredibly beautifully written, such rich culture, such good momentum of story, so beautiful and very sensual, and the characters are just so good. This was my attempt to get a nice standard size hardcover and was thwarted. Actually, no, that one actually is the standard size hardcover. I'm mistaken. I think the reason that I've got it in this Unhaul pile is because the spine's all wonky. But I settled for this one because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to find a nicer one. I did. My very old copy of The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. This is the book club edition that my mom bought back when the book very first came out. It had been collecting dust on my shelves for 15 years before I finally picked it up. And now, like, he's giving Robin Hobb a run for her money as my top favorite author. He's definitely number 1 or 2. I love it so much. And this just sat and collected dust for so long. And part of the reason my mom read it and she said, oh yeah, it's kind of boring. And she's not wrong. Like, I read it once and had to go back and reread it to continue on. And when I reread it, I was like, I really only remember like 3 main key plot points, but I don't remember anything else. Yeah, that's because there are only 3 main key plot points. It's all about the characters. I love Glokta. Everybody loves Glokta, but he's one of my all-time favorites as well. And I wasn't in love with the author with just this first trilogy. I did like the momentum of it. It was a really good read. I love Glokta, but then it wasn't until I hit Best Served Cold, which my personal Abercrombie journey, I identify as a Best Served Cold fanatic. Like, I love that book so much. It worked for me on all accounts, one of my all-time favorites. And that's when I became a believer, because I started noticing some of the writing techniques that he was using. And I think he's brilliant. And he makes me laugh. That was a really long-winded way of saying I've replaced this copy with a new one that's a standard size, and I don't need to hang on to the old one, even though it's a little bit nostalgic. Sweep of Stars by Maurice Broaddus. This one was given to me as a review edition from Tor, and it was an okay book. Like, 3 stars, decent read. I had some issues with it. Momentum was weird. I didn't like how often we bounced around between characters, and I had a really hard time getting engaged with the story. And I think it was kind of the disconnectivity I felt between myself and the characters. Like, I was a little confused also with what was going on because we bounced around so much. And so it was a memorable story. I still, months later, remember vividly everything that happened in it, but I don't see myself continuing. But, you know, interesting read. Very, very good cultural infusions in this one. I liked that aspect. It made it kind of a unique sci-fi. A hardcover of Dark Currents by Jacqueline Carey. This is book 1 in the Agent of Hell trilogy. And this is the same author that wrote the Kushiel's, series. She tried her hand at an urban fantasy, and it was really successful. One of the better ones that I've read. I picked this one up at a really grungy used bookstore in, Fresno, California. I would not recommend going there. And it wasn't until I got it home that I realized just how filthy the top was. And even touching it now, I'm like, ugh. Germaphobes unite. So, whereas I might like to have a copy of this, I don't want to touch it, so I'm going to donate it. First world problems for sure. I have an advanced copy of Into the Wind-Racked Wilds by A. Deborah Baker, also known as Sheena and McGuire. This is her middle grade series, and when I received this in the mail, I immediately checked out the first one from the library, and it was good if you're a kid. Really imaginative. I love this woman's world building and sense of adventure. Great characters, but it wasn't for me. I'm a little too old for it now, and so I thought I don't really want to commit the time to finishing that because I would be just kind of forcing myself through it for the sake of getting to this one. So while I really appreciate them thinking of me, I think I'm letting that one go. Prey by Tom Isbell. This is the first book in a trilogy that I'm actually quite interested in. Just the cover and the concept have me intrigued. But I had everything in hardcover except the first one, and a book outlet purchase led to me buying the first one in hardcover, so I no longer need the paperback. But now they all match. Lost in the Moment but Found by Sheena and McGuire. Tor knows I really like this series, so I got an email and I requested one, and then independently someone in a different part of the department sent me one. So I have 2, so I can get rid of one. This one! Not my favorite of the series, but darn close. Top 3 easily. It was so much fun. I really loved the beginning where we're talking about this young girl and the trials she's facing when her father passes. It's just heart-wrenching. And the magical place that we visit is one of my favorites. Really cool. But yeah, don't need to. In fact, I might be replacing that whole series in hardcover anyway. Last but not least, I have the original science fiction book club editions of Song of Ice and Fire. And these are heavy books. These are such nice copies. I don't know. I haven't even barely cracked the spine on this because I didn't read these to start out with. It took me a while to get into them, and then finally when I had an eye strain injury a long time ago, like back in 2014, I ended up picking these up in an audio. So these copies have never been read, and I have since replaced them with copies on my shelves that I like a lot more. These are I kept the editions that I've always loved, and while I think these are like really cool editions, a good place in A Song of Ice and Fire history, they are not my favorites. I do like the blue though on this one. This one was my favorite book. I don't know, these are so cool that I thought there's no way I can just donate them to a random charity shop, because you never know which ones are kind of like, okay, so I live in a place where there's a lot of heavy religion, and the main charity place that you would donate to, they throw away books like this. So I'm like, I can't do that. No, like these are so cool. But I recently started up a Pango account, which it's a place where you can sell books, and it has opened up a world of possibilities for me. I feel a lot more comfortable letting books go if I know they're going to someone who is really going to love them. So while I think these are cool and the collector in me wants to keep them on my shelves, I know there's someone out there who is just dying to have these. So I will be listing them at a premium. And that just about covers it. Like I said, it is mid-December when I'm filming this, but I have no idea when the video is going to go live. Probably not till March or April, or if I stick to my schedule. But I needed to get these out of here. I needed to get them listed. This corner over here, where I've got this step stool, is where they have been stored. And in the meantime, the step stool has just been hanging around the library. And wherever it is, it's in my way. But right there, it's not in my way. So yeah, doing some early spring cleaning. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this unhaul, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye.